I watched my sister's perfectly manicured hand reach into my purse, her movements practiced and confident. She didn't even hesitate anymore, didn't bother with the pretense of asking. Why would she? In all my 26 years, or should I say, in all my previous 26 years, I'd never once stopped her. Looking for this? I asked, holding up the sleek black membership card to Elite Fitness Center. Madison froze, her hand still buried in my bag. For the first time in both of my lives, I saw genuine surprise flicker across her face. Oh, I was just stealing my gym membership like you did last time? I finished, slipping the card back into my wallet. Don't bother, Maddie. It's already deactivated. Her perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. Deactivated? Why would you? Because I upgraded to the Platinum package 3 days ago. Private locker, reserved parking spot, and unlimited personal training sessions. I smiled, watching her face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and finally that familiar flash of envy that had defined our relationship since childhood. With Marcus Rodriguez, the trainer who works exclusively with athletes and celebrities? Yeah, him. The color drained from Madison's face. In my previous life, that name had meant nothing to me until after she'd stolen my basic membership card and transformed herself from my slightly prettier but fundamentally average sister into an Instagram fitness influencer with 500,000 followers. Marcus Rodriguez had been her secret weapon, or rather, my secret weapon that she'd stolen. In that first life, I'd saved for 8 months to afford a standard gym membership, a desperate attempt to lose the weight that 2 decades of stress eating and my family's constant criticism had piled onto my frame. The day my card arrived in the mail, I'd been so excited I'd cried. It was going to be my fresh start, my chance to finally become the person I wanted to be. I never even made it to my first workout. Madison had taken the card from my purse just to see what the gym looked like and simply never returned it. When I'd confronted her, my mother had sided with her immediately. Don't be selfish, honey. Madison has a real chance at something special. She's trying to build a career. You can go to the gym anytime. You're not exactly camera ready anyway. So, Madison had gone to Elite Fitness using my membership, my money, my chance. She'd met Marcus Rodriguez, who'd taken one look at her potential and agreed to train her personally. Within 6 months, she'd transformed into a fitness model. Within a year, she'd met and married Tyler Hartwick, the 34-year-old CEO of Hartwick Industries, worth somewhere north of $50 million. Meanwhile, I'd spiraled. The weight had gotten worse. The depression had deepened. My job as a low-level accountant barely paid my bills. I'd lived in a studio apartment with a broken heater and had survived on instant ramen and whatever cheap food I could afford. The stress, the weight, the untreated health conditions, it had all compounded. I'd died of a heart attack at 26, alone in that freezing studio apartment, clutching my chest and gasping for air that wouldn't come. My last thought had been of Madison's Instagram post from that morning, a picture of her in designer activewear, caption reading, "Blessed beyond measure, #fitness journey, #grateful, #living my best life." She'd built her best life on the ruins of mine. But then I'd woken up, gasping, sobbing, but alive. I was back in my 23-year-old body the morning after my college graduation, 3 years before my death. The gym membership card would arrive in the mail in exactly 1 week. This time, things were going to be very, very different. You can't afford the Platinum package, Madison said, her voice sharp with accusation. That's like $3,000 a month. Upfront annual payment gets you a discount, I replied breezily. $25,000 for the year, already paid in full. A lie. It was actually $28,000, but I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of knowing exactly how much I'd invested in my revenge. The truth was, I'd emptied my entire savings account, the one my grandmother had left me before she died, the one I'd never touched in my previous life because I'd been too paralyzed by fear and my family's constant message that I didn't deserve nice things. $25,000? My mother's voice cut through the air like a knife as she entered the living room. Helen Park had the kind of beauty that had aged into severity, all sharp cheekbones and sharper judgments. Are you insane? That's your entire inheritance from your grandmother. My inheritance to spend as I choose, I said calmly. On a gym? My father, David Park, looked up from his newspaper with the vague disapproval that was his default expression when dealing with me. That's absurd. You've never stuck with anything in your life. You'll go twice and quit, like you always do. In my previous life, those words would have struck deep, confirming every insecurity I'd harbored about myself. I would have stammered an apology, maybe cried, definitely backed down. But I'd died once already. I'd experienced the ultimate failure. Their words couldn't hurt me anymore. They could only fuel me. I'll keep that in mind, Dad, I said, standing up and smoothing my dress. I have my first session with Marcus in an hour. I should get going. Marcus Rodriguez? Madison's voice had gone shrill. You got a session with Marcus Rodriguez? Every morning at 6 a.m., I confirmed. 5 days a week for the next year. Part of the platinum package. I walked out of the house, my parents' house, where I'd been staying since graduation while job hunting, and climbed into my modest Honda Civic. As I drove away, I could see Madison in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway, her face twisted, with an emotion I recognized intimately, the venomous jealousy of someone watching another person get something they believed should be theirs. Let her stew in it. This was only the beginning. Elite Fitness Center was everything I remembered from the social media posts I'd obsessively scrolled through in my previous life, torturing myself with images of my sister living the life I'd wanted. The building was sleek and modern, all glass and polished steel. Inside, it smelled of eucalyptus and expensive disinfectant. The equipment gleamed. The members looked like they'd stepped out of fitness magazines. And then there was Marcus Rodriguez. 6'3" with the kind of musculature that came from dedication rather than steroids, skin the color of warm mahogany, and eyes that assessed you with professional calculation. In my previous life, I'd only seen him in Madison's Instagram photos, always standing just behind her, the professional smile never quite reaching those calculating eyes. You must be Jessica Park, he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm but not crushing. I've reviewed your intake forms. Let's talk about your goals, Ba. We sat in his private training room, a space dominated by specialized equipment and floor-to-ceiling mirrors. I'd prepared for this conversation carefully. In my previous life, I'd been too ashamed to articulate what I really wanted, too beaten down by years of criticism to believe I deserved anything good. Not this time. I want to lose 80 pounds, I said directly. I want to be healthy and strong. I want to look in the mirror and like what I see, and I want to do it properly with nutrition planning and sustainable habits, not crash diets and suffering. Marcus nodded slowly, his expression giving nothing away. That's a significant goal. It'll take time, probably a year, maybe 18 months to do it right. It's going to be difficult. There'll be days you want to quit. I won't quit. Something in my voice must have convinced him because he smiled, a real smile this time. All right, Jessica, let's get to work. That first workout nearly killed me. My body, young as it was, had already accumulated years of neglect. Every movement was agony, every breath burned. Marcus pushed me hard, but not cruelly, always stopping just short of my breaking point, teaching me the difference between productive discomfort and harmful pain. Your body is a tool, he said as I struggled through my final set of modified push-ups, my arms shaking with effort. Right now, it's a tool you don't know how to use, but you're going to learn. And once you do, you'll be amazed at what you're capable of. I collapsed onto the mat, sweat-soaked and gasping, every muscle screaming. It was the best I'd felt in either of my lives. The next morning, I could barely move. My muscles had staged a full revolt, turning every simple action into an ordeal. Getting out of bed required strategic planning and several false starts. Walking downstairs was a nightmare. Madison found this hilarious. Oh my God, you can barely walk, she crowed over breakfast, her phone out and recording before I could stop her. This is what happens when someone who's never worked out tries to pretend they're an athlete. I'm definitely posting this. Don't, I said, reaching for the phone. She danced backward, still recording, her face alight with malicious glee. Jessica can barely move after one training session. This is what $25,000 gets you. Crippling pain and regret. Hashtag fitness, disaster, hashtag trainer, fail. Waste of money. She posted it before I could physically reach her. Within an hour, it had 300 likes and dozens of comments, mostly from her friends and my relatives, all laughing at my expense. In my previous life, this would have destroyed me. I would have canceled my membership, lost the money, and confirmed everyone's belief that I was a pathetic quitter who deserved their contempt. Instead, I screenshot every comment, saved every mocking message, and filed them away. Evidence for later. Then I hauled myself back into my car and drove to my 6 a.m. session with Marcus. "Sore?" he asked, watching me limp into the training room. "Is that what we're calling this?" I gasped. I thought maybe I'd been hit by a truck and forgotten about it. He laughed, a warm sound that seemed to surprise even him. "Good. That means we worked hard enough. Today we're doing active recovery, light cardio, stretching, and mobility work. We need to teach your body how to repair itself properly." The session was still difficult, but differently so. As my muscles slowly loosened and blood flow increased, the agony began to shift into something more manageable. Marcus talked while we worked, explaining the science of muscle repair, the importance of rest days, the role of nutrition in recovery. "Your sister," he said casually, adjusting my form during a hamstring stretch. "She's Madison Park, right? The one who called earlier trying to book sessions with me?" My heart rate spiked, and not from the exercise. "What did you tell her?" "That my schedule is completely booked for the next 2 years," he replied, moving to adjust my other leg. "Which is true. I only take on 4 clients at a time, and I carefully select each one based on their commitment level and goals." "And you selected me?" "I did." He met my eyes in the mirror. "You want to know why?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Because in your intake form, in the section that asks, 'Why now? What's different this time?' you wrote 3 words. Because I'm done. Not done trying. Done accepting defeat. Done being small. Done letting other people define your worth." He released my leg and stepped back. "I've trained hundreds of people. The ones who succeed aren't the ones who are already confident. They're the ones who are tired of being defeated. You've got that look, Jessica, like you've got something to prove." "I do," I said quietly. "Good. Use it, channel it, let it fuel you every morning when you don't want to get up. Every time someone tells you that you can't do this. Every moment you want to quit." He handed me a water bottle. "Now drink up. We've got another 40 minutes, and I'm not going easy on you just because you're sore." The weeks began to blur together into a rhythm of pain, progress, and persistence. 6 a.m. sessions with Marcus 5 days a week. Meal prep on Sundays, following the nutrition plan he'd designed specifically for my needs and goals. Walks in the evening to hit my step count. Sleep by 10 p.m., 8 hours minimum, because recovery happened during rest. At home, my family's mockery continued unabated. My father made pointed comments about the money I was wasting. My mother sighed dramatically whenever I turned down her high-calorie cooking. Madison documented everything, her social media becoming a running commentary on her delusional sister's pathetic fitness journey. But something was changing, not just in my body, though that was changing too, slowly, incrementally, in ways only I could see. The real change was internal. Every morning I showed up, I proved to myself that I could keep a promise. Every session I completed, I demonstrated my own strength. Every meal I prepared, I chose myself. In my previous life, I'd been passive. Life happened to me. I'd accepted every insult, every theft, every degradation as my due. I'd believed them when they told me I was worthless, lazy, undeserving of good things. But I'd been given an impossible gift, a second chance. And I was going to make it count. By week 6, I'd lost 15 pounds. It wasn't dramatic or Instagram-worthy, but it was real. My clothes fit differently. I could walk upstairs without gasping. The brain fog that had plagued me for years was lifting. Marcus measured my progress with clinical precision, tracking not just weight, but body composition, strength gains, cardiovascular improvements. "You're doing exceptionally well," he said, reviewing my data. "Better than I expected, honestly. You're consistent, you follow the plan, and you don't make excuses. That puts you in the top 5% of clients." What happened to the other 95%? They quit. He set down his tablet and looked at me directly. They let their families talk them out of it. They decided it was too hard. They convinced themselves they didn't deserve to succeed. But you're not going to do that, are you, Jessica? No, I said firmly. I'm not. That evening, I came home to find Madison in the kitchen, her phone propped up on the counter, recording herself making what she called a protein smoothie that was actually about 800 calories of peanut butter and chocolate. And that's the secret to staying fit while still enjoying life, she was saying to her phone, her voice bright and fake. Unlike some people, I don't believe in torturing yourself. Fitness should be fun. She hadn't been to a gym in 2 weeks. I knew because in my previous life, this was when she'd stopped using the stolen membership, having already gotten what she needed from it. Enough transformation photos to launch her social media career and a meet-cute story with Tyler Hartwick, who'd supposedly been impressed by her dedication to health. But Tyler hadn't joined Elite Fitness yet. In my previous life, he'd joined in week 8, having just moved back to the city after expanding his business. Marcus had introduced them when he'd needed a spot during a heavy lifting session, and Madison had been conveniently nearby, looking perfect in her designer workout clothes. Except this time, Madison didn't have a membership to Elite Fitness. She didn't have access to Marcus or his training room or Tyler Hartwick's trajectory. I did. How's the training going? Madison asked, her tone dripping with false concern. I noticed you've stopped posting about it. Did you quit already? I don't post about it, I replied, pulling my meal-prepped lunch from the fridge. I just do it. That's sad, she said, making sure her phone caught her sympathetic expression. I mean, if you're spending that much money, you should at least get some social media value out of it. Though I guess you don't have much of a following. What are you at, like 200 followers? And most of those are relatives who had to follow you out of obligation. 47 followers, actually. Most of them fake accounts or bots. In my previous life, my social media presence had been virtually non-existent. I'd posted occasionally, usually photos of food or sunsets, and gotten maybe 3 likes per post. I'm not doing this for followers, I said. Madison laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Then why are you doing it? Let me guess. You think if you lose weight, your life will magically get better? That someone will finally love you? Honey, it doesn't work that way. Your problems are on the inside. She tapped her forehead meaningfully. No amount of exercise can fix that. In my previous life, those words had been prophetic. After Madison's theft, my problems had been on the inside. Depression, self-hatred, a bone-deep conviction that I was fundamentally unlovable and unworthy. She'd helped put them there, and then she'd mocked me for having them. You're right, I said, meeting her eyes. My problems are on the inside. I'm working on those too. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe? Or the first faint stirring of unease. But then her phone chimed with notifications, and she was distracted, scrolling through comments on her smoothie video, basking in the validation of strangers. Let her have her moment. The clock was ticking. Week 8 arrived with spring warmth and Tyler Hartwick's return to the city. I knew because Elite Fitness sent out a welcome email to all Platinum members, introducing their newest client, Tyler Hartwick, CEO of Hartwick Industries, joining on a trial Platinum membership. Marcus mentioned it casually during our session. We've got a new high-profile member, Hartwick. His assistant called weeks ago to get him on my schedule, but I'm completely booked. He'll be working with Jennifer instead. Jennifer Chen was Elite Fitness's other celebrity trainer, nearly as prestigious as Marcus. In my previous life, this wouldn't have mattered. Madison had already been training with Marcus by this point, and the meet-cute had happened organically. But now, Tyler would be at the gym regularly, but he'd never cross paths with my sister because she wasn't a member. And I was. I didn't orchestrate our meeting. I didn't have to. The Platinum package came with reserved parking spots, and mine happened to be next to his. We arrived at the same time 3 days in a row because I knew his schedule from Madison's constant social media posts in my previous life, where she documented every detail of their romance. On the 3rd day, he held the door open for me. You're always here early, he commented, his voice pleasantly neutral. Dedicated. Trying to be, I replied. Tyler Hartwick was handsome in the way that successful men often are. Good genes enhanced by excellent grooming, expensive clothes, and the confidence that came from never having to worry about money. 34 years old, Harvard MBA, inherited his father's textile company and expanded it into a diversified industry empire. He was also, according to Madison's previous timeline posts, emotionally unavailable, commitment phobic, and kind of boring. But he was rich, which was all Madison had cared about. I wasn't interested in Tyler romantically, but I was very interested in disrupting Madison's carefully laid plans, and Tyler was a key piece of that disruption. "I've seen you working with Marcus," he said as we walked toward the locker rooms. "He's supposed to be the best, but he's completely booked. Lucky you." "Very lucky," I agreed, son. "He's incredible. Changed my whole approach to fitness." "Maybe I should try to poach him," Tyler joked. "Offer him an absurd amount of money to train only me." "He wouldn't take it," I said with certainty. "He cares more about his clients' success than money. That's why he only takes 4 at a time. He wants to give each person his full attention." Something in Tyler's expression shifted, a flicker of respect. In my previous life, Madison had agreed enthusiastically when he'd made that same joke, saying she'd absolutely train with him privately if someone offered enough money. Small moment, but telling. We parted ways at the locker rooms, and I didn't think much more of it. I was there for me, for my health, for my revenge. Tyler Hartwick was just a side character in this story, but then, 2 weeks later, Marcus mentioned during our session that Tyler had requested an introduction to me. To me? I paused mid-squat, nearly losing my balance. Why? He asked about the woman who's always here at 6 a.m., who works harder than anyone he's ever seen. Marcus steadied my shoulders, guiding me through the rest of the rep. Said he wanted to know if you'd be willing to share your meal plans and workout schedule. Apparently, he's impressed. My first instinct was to refuse. I didn't want complications, didn't want to be distracted from my goals, but then I thought about Madison, scrolling through social media, posting her fake fitness content, waiting for her chance to steal whatever good thing might come into my life. "Sure," I said. "I can do that." So Tyler and I started talking. Nothing romantic, just gym acquaintances who happened to have similar schedules and compatible personalities. He was driven and focused, qualities I could appreciate now that I was developing them myself. He asked intelligent questions about nutrition and training theory. He didn't make assumptions or talk down to me. He was, I realized with some surprise, actually a decent person. Not exciting or particularly charismatic, but solid, reliable, and completely oblivious to the fact that my sister was desperately trying to insert herself into his orbit. Because yes, Madison had found out about Tyler Hartwick. How could she not? She'd called Elite Fitness repeatedly, trying to get a membership, trying to book sessions with Marcus, trying to find any way to access the gym where a single, wealthy CEO happened to work out. But Elite Fitness had a strict membership policy. Their basic memberships were completely sold out, with a waitlist stretching 18 months. Platinum memberships like mine were limited and expensive. Madison, despite her social media following, didn't have $28,000 lying around. She still lived at home, didn't have a real job, and our parents weren't about to fund what they saw as a frivolous expense. She tried everything. She attempted to use my old basic membership card, the one I'd had deactivated. She called pretending to be me, trying to add a guest pass. She even showed up in person, dressed in expensive workout clothes she'd probably bought on credit, and attempted to sweet-talk her way past the front desk. Elite Fitness had excellent security. She got nowhere. I knew all of this because Marcus told me, his voice carefully neutral, "Your sister has been persistent in trying to access the facility. I wanted you to know in case it became an issue." "It won't," I assured him. "Madison likes to take things that belong to other people. She's finding it difficult to adjust to the word no." He studied me for a long moment. "There's a story there." "There is," I agreed, "but it's not one I'm ready to tell yet. I'm still writing the ending." 3 months into my training, I'd lost 40 pounds. The change was dramatic enough that people started noticing. Colleagues at my new job, I'd taken a position at a mid-size accounting firm, starting the career I'd never properly built in my previous life, commented on how different I looked. Distant relatives who'd ignored me at family gatherings suddenly wanted to know my secret. I told no one. I shared nothing on social media. I documented my progress only in Marcus's training logs and the photos I took privately, marking the slow transformation of my body and, more importantly, my mindset. Madison, meanwhile, was spiraling. Her social media engagement was dropping. Without genuine content or real expertise, her fitness influencer persona was wearing thin. Her followers could sense the inauthenticity, the borrowed authority of someone who talked about working out without actually doing the work. She tried to pivot to other content, fashion, lifestyle, travel, but none of it gained traction. The algorithm, cruel mistress that it was, had decided she was a fitness account and it punished her for deviating from that niche. She needed access to elite fitness. She needed Marcus's expertise. She needed the credibility that came from training at a prestigious gym. She needed what I had. One evening, she cornered me in my bedroom. "Jess, we need to talk." I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing case files from work. "About?" "Your gym membership." She sat on my bed uninvited, her expression crafted into what she probably thought was sisterly concern. "I've been thinking, it's such a waste for you to hoard it all to yourself. We're family. We should share resources." "Share resources," I repeated flatly. "Like the time you shared my college textbooks by selling them before I'd finished my classes? Or when you shared my birthday money from grandma by taking it from my wallet?" Her face flushed. "That was years ago. Are you seriously still holding grudges?" "God, Jess, you're so petty." "I'm petty." I closed my laptop, giving her my full attention. "Maddie, you've taken something from me at every opportunity since we were kids. My clothes, my money, my opportunities. The one time I have something valuable that's exclusively mine, you immediately assume you're entitled to it. It's just a gym membership. Then get your own." "I can't afford it," she shouted, her composure cracking. "Do you know how much the waitlist costs? And that's just for a basic membership, not the platinum bullshit you bought. I need that gym, Jess. I need Marcus's training. What you need," I interrupted, "is to build something for yourself instead of stealing from me." "I'm not stealing. I'm asking you to share." "No." I opened my laptop again, dismissing her. "The answer is no. It was no yesterday. It's no today. It'll be no tomorrow. Get used to disappointment, Madison. It builds character." She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. In my previous life, I'd never spoken to her like this. I'd been too afraid, too conditioned to accept abuse as love, too desperate for any scrap of familial affection. But I'd died. Once. I knew how this story ended when I played the victim. This time, I was writing a different ending. Madison stormed out, slamming my door hard enough to rattle the walls. Within minutes, I could hear her complaining to our mother, her voice shrill with indignation. "She's being so selfish. She's deliberately sabotaging me. She knows I need that gym membership for my career, but she won't even let me use it as a guest." My mother's response was predictable. "Jessica, come down here right now." I took my time, finishing the paragraph I'd been reading before closing my laptop and descending the stairs. My parents and Madison were arrayed in the living room like a tribunal, 3 sets of accusing eyes fixed on me. "Madison tells us you're refusing to share your gym membership," my mother said, her voice tight with disapproval. "That's correct." "Don't you think that's incredibly selfish?" "No," I replied calmly. "I think it would be incredibly stupid to give Madison access to something I've paid for, considering her established pattern of taking my things and never returning them." "This is different," Madison insisted. "I'm trying to build a career. I have followers depending on me for fitness content. You're just going to the gym for yourself. That's so self-centered." The irony was so thick I could have sliced it with a knife. "So, I should give up my gym access so you can pretend to be a fitness expert on social media?" "You don't understand how important this is." "You're right," I agreed. "I don't understand how getting Instagram likes is more important than my actual health and well-being. Maybe you could explain it to me." This is exactly your problem, my father interjected, setting down his newspaper. You've always been jealous of your sister's success. You can't stand that she's accomplished something with her life while you're you, just me, just Jessica, just the family disappointment, the lesser daughter, the one not worth investing in. Those words would have destroyed me 6 months ago. Now they just made me tired. I have a job, I said quietly. A real job with a salary and benefits and career progression. I wake up every morning and work toward my goals. I pay my own bills. I'm building an actual life, not a social media fantasy. If that's not accomplishment enough for you, then I guess I'll just have to learn to live with your disappointment. I turned and walked back upstairs, leaving them in stunned silence. My hands were shaking. Confrontation still didn't come naturally, even with the benefit of foresight. But I'd done it. I'd stood up for myself. I'd said no and meant it. It felt powerful. It felt right. It felt like victory. The next morning, I arrived at Elite Fitness at 5:45 a.m. to find Madison in the parking lot arguing with security. She'd apparently tried to tailgate through the gate behind another member's car and been stopped. Don't understand. I'm Jessica Park's sister, was saying, her voice reaching the hysterical pitch it always hit when she didn't get her way immediately. Ma'am, we've explained this multiple times. You need your own membership to access the facility, the security guard replied with professional patience. I could have walked past. Should have, probably. But I was feeling bold after last night's confrontation. Is there a problem? I asked, approaching them. Madison whirled on me, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Tell them I'm your sister and I'm allowed to be here. You're my sister, I confirmed to the security guard, but you're not allowed to be here. She doesn't have a membership. Jessica, Madison shrieked. Ma'am, you need to leave the property, the security guard said, his hand moving to his radio. If you refuse, we'll have to call the police for trespassing. I walked past her into the building, swiping my keycard and hearing the satisfying beep of access granted. Behind me, Madison's shouts faded as security escorted her off the property. Inside, Marcus was waiting in his training room, my workout plan already queued up on his tablet. Rough morning? Interesting morning, I corrected, setting down my water bottle and beginning my warm-up stretches. But nothing I can't handle. Your sister seems very determined to access this gym. Madison is very determined to access anything she thinks will benefit her, regardless of who she has to step on to get it. I moved into a lunge, feeling the pleasant stretch in my hip flexors. But this is mine. She doesn't get to take it. Good, Marcus said firmly. You've earned this, Jessica. Every morning you show up, every workout you complete, every goal you hit, that's yours. Don't let anyone take it from you. We trained hard that day. Marcus pushed me through a brutal leg workout that left me shaking and questioning my life choices. But when I looked in the mirror during the cool-down stretches, I saw someone different from the woman who'd started this journey 6 months ago. I saw someone strong, someone capable, someone who didn't give up. I saw myself. At 6 months, I'd lost 55 pounds and gained visible muscle definition. My body was transforming, yes, but more importantly, my entire life was changing. I'd been promoted at work, my manager praising my attention to detail and strong work ethic. I'd moved out of my parents' house into my own one-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy, but clean and mine. I'd started saying no to things that didn't serve me and yes to things that did. I'd become the person I'd always been capable of being. Tyler Hartwick had become a genuine friend. We grabbed coffee occasionally after morning workouts, talking about business and goals and life philosophy. He mentioned casually that he was looking to expand Hartwick Industries into sustainable textiles, and I'd pointed him towards some emerging research I'd come across. He'd been impressed enough to consult with me on several business decisions. We weren't dating. I still wasn't interested, and neither was he, despite Madison's increasingly deranged social media posts suggesting I was seducing him. But we'd developed a solid professional relationship built on mutual respect, which made it particularly awkward when Madison showed up at Tyler's office building. I only knew about it because Tyler called me, his voice carefully controlled but clearly annoyed. Jessica, I need to ask you something. Does your sister know where I work? My stomach dropped. What did she do? She appeared in my lobby this morning, said she was there to see me for a consultation about her fitness brand. When my assistant explained I don't take unsolicited meetings, she became insistent. Security had to escort her out. I'm so sorry, I said immediately. She's been. This is complicated. I'll handle it. There's more, Tyler continued. She's been creating social media posts that suggest we're in a relationship, multiple posts implying we're dating, that I'm her boyfriend, that we're planning a future together. Jessica, I've never spoken to her. I don't even know what she looks like. I know, I said quietly. In another timeline, in a different version of events, you two would have met at Elite Fitness. She would have been using my gym membership. You would have dated, probably gotten married. But that timeline doesn't exist anymore because I changed it. There was a long pause. I'm not sure I understand. You don't need to, I assured him. Just know that Madison is dangerous when she doesn't get what she wants. She's targeted you because you represent success and wealth, and she's built a fantasy around the idea that she deserves access to that life. I'll talk to her. This stops now. I didn't go home immediately after work. Instead, I went to Madison's favorite coffee shop, the one where she filmed most of her social media content. She was there, as I'd known she would be, her phone propped up on a stack of books while she filmed herself drinking an iced latte. And that's why sustainable fitness is so important, she was saying to her phone, her voice bright and practiced. You can't just work out obsessively like some people. A pointed look, meaning me. You have to balance it with self-care and mental health, and I sat down across from her, directly in frame. What the hell, Jess? She hissed, stopping the recording. I'm working. We need to talk about Tyler Hartwick. Her face went pale, then flushed red. I don't know what you mean. You showed up at his office. You've been creating posts claiming you're in a relationship with him. You've been stalking him, Madison. It needs to stop. I'm not stalking anyone. I'm manifesting a relationship. There's nothing wrong with putting positive energy into the universe. There's everything wrong with creating false narratives about a real person who's asked you to stop, I said firmly. Tyler has never met you. He's not your boyfriend. He's not interested in you. And if you continue this behavior, he's prepared to pursue legal action for harassment and defamation. He wouldn't dare, but her voice trembled with uncertainty. He would. He's already consulted with his lawyers. A bluff, but she didn't know that. Madison, this has to end. You need to delete those posts. Stop creating content about Tyler and leave him alone. This is your fault, she burst out, loud enough that other customers turned to stare. You deliberately stole him from me. You knew I wanted to meet him. You knew he was my type, and you swooped in and poisoned him against me. I didn't steal anything. Tyler and I are friends, nothing more. And I didn't poison him against you. Your behavior did that all on its own. Liar, you've been planning this all along. You've always been jealous of me, and now you're trying to ruin my life. The barista approached our table nervously. I'm sorry, but if you're going to argue, I need to ask you to leave. Madison grabbed her phone and stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. This isn't over, Jessica. You think you've won something, but you haven't. I'll get everything you have, everything you want, just like I always do. She stormed out, and I sat alone at the table, my hands wrapped around a coffee I hadn't ordered, processing what had just happened. The thing about confrontation is that it's exhausting even when you're in the right. Standing up to Madison, setting boundaries, protecting myself, it was all necessary, but it took a toll. I felt drained, wrung out, questioning whether this revenge plot was worth the emotional energy it required. But then I remembered lying on the floor of my studio apartment, my heart giving out, dying alone and unmourned while Madison posted about her blessed life. I remembered all the stolen opportunities, all the casual cruelties, all the years I'd spent believing I deserved nothing better. No, this wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice. This was about ensuring that the victim I'd been in my previous life got the happy ending she deserved all along. So I went to the gym the next morning, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. I kept training, kept working, kept building my new life brick by brick. At 8 months, I was down 70 pounds. Marcus had me doing workouts that would have seemed impossible at the beginning: heavy squats, pull ups, rope climbs, advanced plyometrics. I was strong in ways I'd never imagined possible. I was also being scouted. Jennifer Chen, the other platinum trainer at Elite Fitness, approached me after a session. "Jessica, do you have a minute?" We sat in the juice bar and she slid a business card across the table. "I have a client who runs a fitness apparel company. They're looking for real people, not models, not influencers, but actual women who've achieved genuine transformations to be the faces of their new campaign." I showed them your progress photos. They're interested. I stared at the card, Athena Athletics, with a name and email beneath. "I'm not trying to be a fitness influencer." "I know," Jennifer said with a smile. "That's exactly why they want you. They're tired of the fake authenticity, the purchased followers, the people who promote fitness without actually doing the work. They want someone real, someone inspiring, someone like you." The campaign paid $20,000 for a 6-month contract. It included a professional photo shoot, a video interview about my journey, and social media posts featuring their products. It was legitimate, well-paid work with a respected company. I signed the contract. The photo shoot happened at 10 months into my journey when I'd lost 82 pounds and looked, I could finally admit it, genuinely good. Not magazine model perfect, but strong and healthy and radiant with the confidence that came from achieving something I'd worked for. The photographer captured me mid-workout, muscles engaged, sweat glistening, face set with determination. She captured me laughing with Marcus, the genuine friendship we'd developed over hundreds of early morning sessions. She captured me simply existing in my transformed body, comfortable and powerful. When the campaign launched, it went viral. Not in the small niche way Madison's posts occasionally gain traction, but genuinely, massively viral. Millions of views across platforms. Thousands of comments from women thanking me for showing what real transformation looked like. Media outlets requesting interviews. A waiting list of potential clients for Marcus so long that Elite Fitness had to hire 2 additional trainers. And Madison's world imploded. Her followers, already declining, began to hemorrhage as people discovered my story. They read about how I'd worked consistently for nearly a year, followed a strict plan, showed up even when it was hard. They compared it to Madison's sporadic posts, her lack of genuine knowledge, her borrowed authority. The comments on her post turned vicious. "Why have you never shown your actual workouts? You're clearly not training with a real professional. Is your whole account fake? Your sister is the real fitness inspiration, not you." She tried to pivot, claiming she'd always supported my journey, posting old photos of us together with captions about sisterly pride. But the internet is unforgiving, and someone unearthed her old posts, the ones where she'd mocked my soreness, called my transformation attempt pathetic, implied I'd never succeed. Screenshot after screenshot, shared and reshared, each one another nail in the coffin of her credibility. Within 2 weeks, she'd lost 30,000 followers. Brand partnerships that had been tentative became cancellations. Her engagement rate plummeted, and then the Athena Athletics campaign offered me something else, a chance to bring another woman onto the campaign. Someone who'd also achieved a significant transformation, who could speak authentically about the journey. They suggested several names. I rejected all of them. "I want to offer it to my sister," I said. The marketing director looked confused. "Your sister, Madison Park? But her online presence has been problematic. We've actually been distancing our brand from that type of influencer." "I know," I said calmly. "But if she's willing to be honest, really honest about where she went wrong, about what real fitness requires, about the work involved, it could be a powerful redemption story." What I didn't say, I wanted to offer Madison a choice. A genuine opportunity to change, to do real work, to build something authentic. If she took it, genuinely committed, and transformed herself through honest effort, I could forgive her. We could maybe build a real sisterly relationship, and if she refused, if she continued to cut corners and steal and lie, then she'd have proven that she deserved everything that was coming to her. I made the offer at a family dinner with our parents present. Athena Athletics wants to expand their campaign, I said, sliding a folder across the table to Madison. They're willing to offer you a contract, contingent on you training seriously for 6 months, documenting your real journey, and being honest about the work required. Madison stared at the folder like it might bite her. Why would you do this? Because despite everything, you're my sister. And because I think you might actually be capable of something real if you'd stop trying to take shortcuts. I met her eyes. But this is a one-time offer, Madison. If you take it and quit, if you lie or cut corners or try to fake it, there won't be another chance. This is your opportunity to do something legitimate. She opened the folder, scanning the contract details. $20,000 for 6 months, same as mine. But with the stipulation that she had to train at Elite Fitness, they'd negotiated a platinum membership as part of the deal and work with Jennifer Chen under the same rigorous schedule I'd followed. This is a trick, she said finally. Mabanase, you're trying to make me look bad. No, I replied honestly. I'm trying to give you a chance to look good. Actually good, not fake it till you make it good. But you have to do the work. Our parents, who'd been silent throughout this exchange, finally spoke. That's very generous, Jessica, my mother said slowly, and I heard something in her voice I'd never heard before. Respect, maybe even pride. Madison should take it, my father added. It's a legitimate opportunity, real money, real work. Madison's face cycled through emotions, anger, suspicion, hope, fear. Finally, she looked up at me. What happens if I fail? Then you fail, I said simply. But at least you'll have tried something real. That's more than you've done, so far. She signed the contract. The next 6 months were fascinating. Madison started training with Jennifer, and to everyone's surprise, including, I think, her own, she actually committed. She showed up for early morning sessions. She followed the meal plans. She documented her real journey, including the difficult parts, the soreness, the moments she wanted to quit. It wasn't easy for her. Madison had spent so long cultivating a perfect image that admitting weakness felt like death. But slowly, reluctantly, she began to change. Not just physically, though that happened too. She lost weight, gained strength, transformed her body through genuine effort. But internally, something shifted. She started to understand the difference between performing success and actually achieving it. We weren't close. We might never be. But slowly, tentatively, we began to build something resembling a functional sisterly relationship. She apologized, not a grand gesture, just a quiet acknowledgement over coffee one morning that she'd been cruel and selfish and wrong. I accepted her apology, but I didn't forget. Forgiveness doesn't require amnesia. Our parents, confronted with the undeniable evidence that I'd transformed my life through determination and hard work, while Madison had fumbled hers through laziness and deceit, began to shift their perspective. It wasn't a dramatic revelation. They didn't suddenly become perfect, supportive parents. But the casual dismissiveness faded. They started asking about my work, my goals, my life. Small changes, but meaningful. Tyler and I remained friends. He eventually started dating someone else, a professor he'd met at a charity gala, a woman who shared his interests and values. I was genuinely happy for him. He'd dodged a bullet with Madison, and he'd found someone who actually suited him. As for me, at the end of my first year with Marcus, I'd lost 95 pounds, gained significant muscle mass, and transformed my body so completely that people from my past didn't recognize me. But more importantly, I'd transformed my mind. I'd learned that I could keep promises to myself, that I could do difficult things, that I was worthy of taking up space, of pursuing goals, of living a full and genuine life. The Athena Athletics campaign led to other opportunities, speaking engagements, partnerships with health brands, consulting work for fitness companies looking for authentic voices. I built a second career alongside my accounting work, one focused on helping other women recognize their worth and fight for their goals. I hired Marcus full-time as my personal coach and business partner. Together, we launched a program called Second Chances, a fitness and life coaching service for women escaping abuse or rebuilding after trauma. We offered sliding scale pricing and scholarships, making sure that money wasn't a barrier to transformation. The program exploded. Within a year, we had a waiting list of 3,000 women. Within 2 years, we'd expanded to 10 locations across the country. Within 3, we'd gone international. I became wealthy, not Tyler Hartwick wealthy, but comfortable enough to never worry about money again. I bought a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and a full home gym. I donated substantial amounts to causes supporting women's health and independence. And every morning, I still woke up at 5:30 a.m. and trained. Because it wasn't about the destination. It had never been about just losing weight or looking good or proving something to my family. It was about showing myself every single day that I was someone who kept her promises, someone who did the work, someone who'd been given an impossible second chance and had used it to become the person she'd always been capable of being. 2 years after I'd woken up in my 23-year-old body, gasping and sobbing and terrified, I stood on a stage at a women's empowerment conference. 5,000 women filled the auditorium. My story, the real story of transformation, resilience, and second chances, was being broadcast live to hundreds of thousands more online. I talked about abuse, about family trauma, about the moment I decided I deserved better. I talked about showing up every morning even when it was hard, about choosing myself over and over again, about the difference between performing a life and actually living one. And when I finished, the auditorium erupted. Not just applause, but a standing ovation that went on for minutes, thousands of women on their feet, many of them crying, all of them seeing themselves in my story. Backstage afterward, I checked my phone and found a text from Madison. "I watched your speech. You were incredible. Thank you for giving me a second chance, too." I smiled, typing back, "Thank you for taking it seriously. Proud of you, sis." And I meant it, because the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's becoming so successful that you can afford to be generous. It's rising so far above their level that their attempts to drag you down become irrelevant. It's living well, genuinely, authentically, powerfully well. That night, I returned to my penthouse and stood in front of the full-length mirror in my home gym. The same mirror where I'd performed countless workouts, tracked endless progress photos, witnessed my complete transformation. I looked at the strong, healthy, powerful woman staring back at me. Muscles defined from years of consistent work, posture confident from years of keeping promises to myself, eyes bright with the knowledge that I'd taken the worst thing that ever happened to me, dying alone and unmourned at 26, and transformed it into the best thing. A second life lived on my terms. "Oh, we did it," I whispered to my reflection. "We actually did it." And in the mirror, the strong woman smiled back, victorious. I'd taken the gym membership card Madison had stolen in another timeline and turned it into an empire. I'd taken the abuse and neglect and cruelty my family had inflicted and transformed it into fuel for my success. I'd taken a second chance at life and built something extraordinary. The story could have ended there, with me triumphant and Madison reformed and our family functional. A neat, tidy ending where everyone learned their lesson and grew. But life is rarely that simple. 3 years after my rebirth, my mother called. "Jessica, you need to come home. It's your father." David Park had suffered a massive heart attack. He survived, but barely. Lying in the hospital bed, surrounded by beeping machines and sterile air, he looked small and mortal in a way I'd never seen before. "Jessica," he said, his voice weak, "I need to tell you something." I sat beside his bed, holding his hand, something I'd never done before in either life. "I was wrong," he continued, each word clearly an effort. "About you, about Madison. I thought success was about appearances, about what you could show others. I pushed you both toward things that looked good instead of things that were good. I made you believe you weren't enough just as you were. Dad, let me finish." He squeezed my hand with what little strength he had. "You were always enough, Jessica, more than enough. You were kind and hardworking and genuine, and I dismissed all of that because it wasn't flashy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I cried then, the tears I'd been holding back for 3 years, for 26 years if you counted my previous life. Because this was what I'd really wanted all along, more than revenge or success or even justice. I'd wanted my father to see me, to value me, to admit that I'd been worthy all along. "I forgive you," I whispered. "I forgive you, Dad." He recovered slowly. The heart attack had been a wake-up call for the entire family. My parents started therapy, individual and couples counseling, working through the toxic patterns they'd developed over decades. My mother admitted her role in the favoritism, in the cruelty, in the systemic erosion of my self-worth. It wasn't a magical transformation. They couldn't undo 23 years of damage with a few months of therapy. But they tried. They showed up, they did the work, just like I'd taught them. Madison and I became close. Not best friends, not partners in crime, but genuine sisters who respected each other's boundaries and supported each other's growth. She completed her 6 months with Athena Athletics, then another year, and eventually became a legitimate fitness professional with real credentials and authentic expertise. She also met someone, not a wealthy CEO, just a decent guy who was a physical therapist at a sports medicine clinic. They were good together, building a real relationship based on honesty and mutual support rather than social media optics. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered what had happened to the Tyler Hartwick who'd married Madison in my previous timeline. What kind of life they'd built together, whether she'd made him happy or just used him for his money and status. But that timeline was dead, erased the moment I'd opened my eyes in my 23-year-old body and decided to fight for a different ending. This timeline, this reality, was mine, built through effort and consistency and the refusal to accept defeat as permanent. 5 years after my rebirth, I stood in the main training room at the original Second Chances location, watching a new group of women begin their journeys. They were scared and uncertain, carrying trauma and abuse and decades of being told they weren't enough. I knew exactly how they felt. "My name is Jessica Park," I said, addressing the group. 5 years ago, I weighed 95 pounds more than I do now. I was trapped in an abusive family dynamic, working a dead-end job, believing I deserved nothing better. And then I decided that I was done accepting defeat. I was done being small. I was done letting other people define my worth. I paused, making eye contact with each woman in turn. You are all here because, somewhere inside, you've made that same decision. You're done. Done accepting less than you deserve. Done believing the lies people have told you about your value. Done being small. One woman raised her hand tentatively. "What if we fail? What if we try and can't do it?" "Then you try again," I said simply. And again, until one day you realize you're not trying anymore, you're doing. You're living. You're thriving. The only real failure is giving up. Everything else is just practice. Another woman spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "My sister tells me I'll never succeed. That I'm not strong enough." I smiled, remembering Madison in the doorway, blocking my path to the life I deserved. "Then prove her wrong," I said. "Not to hurt her, not for revenge, but because you deserve to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than anyone believed possible, including yourself." We began the first workout. I moved among them, offering encouragement and corrections, watching them struggle and persevere. Each rep was a small victory. Each completed set was evidence of their strength. This, I realized, was the real victory. Not the money or the success or even the transformation of my body. This, helping other women escape the prisons their families and societies had built around them, this was what that stolen gym membership had ultimately become. Madison had taken my card thinking she was stealing my one chance at success, but she'd actually given me something else. Clarity about who she really was, and motivation to ensure that this time, in this life, I built something she could never take from me. Myself, my strength, my worth, those things belong to me and me alone. Earned through effort, tested through adversity, proven through consistency. Nobody could steal them because they weren't objects to be taken. They were truths I'd written into my very bones, one workout at a time, one choice at a time, one promise kept at a time. That evening, Marcus and I sat in his office reviewing the quarterly numbers for Second Chances. The program was profitable, sustainable, and genuinely changing lives. We'd helped over 10,000 women in 5 years with success rates far exceeding industry standards. "You built something incredible here," Marcus said, closing the report. When you first walked into my training room 5 years ago, I knew you had potential, but this, he gestured at the screen showing testimonials, transformation photos, success stories. This exceeded anything I imagined. We built it, I corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Maybe, he allowed. But I've trained a lot of people, Jessica. Celebrities, athletes, executives. And you know what the difference is with you? What? You never forgot where you came from. You never lost sight of why you started. Most people, once they achieve success, they distance themselves from their past struggles. They want to pretend they were always this strong, this successful. But you turned your pain into purpose. You used your worst experience to help others escape theirs. I thought about that. About the girl who'd died at 26, alone and unmourned. About the woman who'd been given an impossible second chance and had chosen to use it not just for revenge but for redemption, her own and others. I almost didn't make it, I admitted. In my darkest moments, I wanted to quit, to give up, to accept that maybe everyone was right about me. But you didn't. No, I agreed. I didn't, and that's made all the difference. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two people who'd built something meaningful together, who'd transformed pain into power and weakness into strength. Finally, Marcus spoke again. Your sister called me today. I raised an eyebrow. Madison? What did she want? She wants to work for second chances. Not as a trainer, she knows she's not qualified for that yet. But in outreach, maybe program coordination. She said she wants to help women like both of you used to be. I considered this. Madison, working alongside me in the organization I'd built from the ruins of what she'd tried to steal. It was poetic in a way. What do you think? I asked. I think people can change, Marcus said carefully. I've seen her transformation these past few years. She's put in the work, not just physically but emotionally. She's been in therapy, made amends, rebuilt herself from the ground up. She's not the person who tried to steal your membership card anymore. No, I agreed. She's not. But she's also my sister, and mixing family with business is complicated. True, but complications can be worth it if the result is something meaningful. I thought about Madison at family dinners now, genuinely interested in my work, asking thoughtful questions about program design and client outcomes. I thought about her working with her own clients, patient and encouraging, using her mistakes as teaching moments. Tell her to send me a formal application, I said finally. We'll interview her like any other candidate. If she's qualified and fits the culture, we'll hire her, but no special treatment because she's my sister. Fair enough, Marcus agreed. Madison got the job. She was good at it too, surprisingly good. She had a natural ability to connect with women who'd been victims of family abuse, probably because she'd been both victim and perpetrator. She understood the cycle from both sides. We worked together professionally, maintaining boundaries, building something bigger than either of us individually could have created. It wasn't perfect. We still argued sometimes, still had to navigate the complicated history between us. But we made it work because both of us had learned the same fundamental lesson. Success isn't about taking from others. It's about building something so substantial that there's enough for everyone. 7 years after my rebirth, on a cold morning in late November, I drove to Elite Fitness at 5:30 a.m. The same time, the same place where this journey had begun. But everything else was different. I no longer needed to lose weight or prove anything to anyone. I trained now purely for the joy of it, for the meditation of movement, for the satisfaction of pushing my body and feeling it respond. I pulled into my reserved spot, the same spot where I'd first met Tyler Hartwick, setting off a chain of events that had derailed Madison's plans and secured my victory. But Tyler was long gone, married now with a baby on the way, living across the country and thriving in ways that had nothing to do with me. Inside, the gym was beginning to wake up. Early morning regulars arriving, maintenance staff finishing their cleaning rounds, trainers preparing for their first sessions. And there in the lobby was a young woman who looked exactly like I had 7 years ago. Overweight, uncertain, carrying herself like she expected the world to reject her at any moment. She was clutching a new platinum membership card, her hands shaking slightly. I recognized that look, that mixture of hope and terror, the fear that this time would be like all the other times, that she'd fail, that she'd confirm everyone's low expectations, that she was fundamentally broken and unfixable. I walked over to her. First day? She jumped slightly, then nodded. Yes, I'm supposed to meet my trainer, but I'm early and I'm nervous, and she stopped, taking a breath. Sorry, I'm rambling. Don't apologize, I said gently. First days are scary. I was terrified my first day, too. Really? She looked skeptical, taking in my athletic build, my confident posture, my general air of someone who belonged in this space. Really? 7 years ago, I stood in this exact lobby, convinced I was going to fail, convinced everyone who'd ever said I wasn't good enough was right. What changed? I smiled, remembering that moment of decision, the choice to fight for myself instead of accepting defeat. I showed up anyway, and then I showed up the next day and the day after that. I kept showing up until it stopped being about proving anyone wrong and started being about proving myself right. She absorbed this, her expression shifting slightly. I'm Sarah, she said, extending a hand. Jessica, I replied, shaking it. And Sarah, you've got this. The fact that you're here, that you invested in yourself, that you're choosing to fight, that's already a victory. Everything else is just building on that foundation. Her trainer appeared, one of the new hires Second Chances had placed at Elite Fitness, part of our partnership program. She saw me talking to Sarah and smiled, recognizing the moment for what it was, a passing of the torch, one survivor to another. I left Sarah in capable hands and headed to my own workout, a private session in Marcus's training room. Even after all these years, we still trained together once a week, maintaining the partnership that had started this entire journey. You were talking to the new platinum member, Marcus observed as I began my warm-up. Reminding her that everyone starts somewhere, I replied, and that showing up is half the battle. The wisdom of experience, he said with a smile. Remember when you were the nervous new member I had to convince not to quit after the first workout? I remember everything, I said honestly. Every painful rep, every moment I wanted to give up, every small victory that built into something bigger. I remember dying alone in a studio apartment, and I remember choosing to live differently this time. Marcus knew about my rebirth. I'd told him years ago during a late-night conversation after a particularly successful charity gala. He'd listened without judgment, accepting the impossible story with the same calm professionalism he brought to everything. And if you could go back, he asked now, as he'd asked before, knowing everything that would happen, would you choose this again? I thought about the pain, the struggle, the confrontations, and conflicts. I thought about the hard work and early mornings and moments of doubt. And then I thought about standing on that stage 2 years ago, speaking to 5,000 women who saw themselves in my story. I thought about Sarah in the lobby taking her first step toward a better life. I thought about the 10,000 women Second Chances had helped and the thousands more we would help in the future. I thought about Madison, reformed and genuine, building a real life instead of a fake one. I thought about my parents working through their damage and trying to be better. I thought about myself, strong and healthy and genuinely happy. Every single time, I said firmly, I would choose this every single time. Because the gym membership Madison had tried to steal wasn't just about fitness. It was a symbol of every good thing I'd ever wanted for myself. Health, strength, success, respect, love. In my previous life, she'd taken it, and with it, she'd taken my future. But in this life, in this timeline, I'd protected what was mine. I'd built something she couldn't steal because it was based on effort and authenticity rather than theft and deception. And in doing so, I'd discovered something Madison never had. That the things you build yourself are so much more valuable than the things you take from others. That genuine success is heavier, more solid, more real than any Instagram fantasy. That showing up day after day, promise after promise, choice after choice is how you transform not just your body, but your entire life. The girl who'd died at 26 would have been amazed by who I'd become. But she would also have recognized the core of it, that determination, that refusal to accept defeat, that stubborn insistence on mattering. That part was always there. I'd just needed a second chance to prove it. Marcus and I began the workout, falling into the rhythm we'd perfected over 7 years. push, rest, building strength one rep at a time. Outside, the sun was rising over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day full of possibilities. I smiled, feeling my muscles engage, feeling the familiar burn of effort and growth. Let's go, I said to Marcus, to myself, to the universe. Let's see what we can build today. And we did. One workout at a time, one choice at a time, one promise kept at a time. Building a life worth living. Every single day.